Night had fallen over the small town, and the streets seemed wrapped in fog. The street lights barely illuminated the wet cobblestones, and a light breeze whispered through the empty trees. All the houses appeared locked and silent, yet an invisible tension lingered in the air, as if something unseen was watching every step. The protagonist walked along the streets, not rushing, listening to his own heartbeat, trying to sense the atmosphere of this evening. He remembered that something was meant to change tonight. It was as if the town was waiting for an event no one yet understood. The streetlights cast long shadows on the walls of the old buildings, and the sounds of the night were gradually fading. He stopped by a small shop with a still-lit lamp and peered inside. Empty. The night promised to be long, and he could feel it. Every step on the wet cobblestones produced a soft chime that echoed in the darkness. The protagonist felt that someone or something was watching, but the streets seemed completely empty. The air smelled of dampness and old wood, and the silence that enveloped the town was unnaturally thick. He stopped by the old fountain, listening intently for any sound. Suddenly, a faint creaking could be heard. He paused. It seemed like footsteps, but they quickly faded. The night was growing heavier. It felt as if the fog was wrapping not only the streets, but his very mind. An invisible tension hung in the air, and he sensed that something unusual was about to happen. He took a few more steps, each sound now seeming significant. In the distance, the streetlight's glow barely reflected off the wall of an old building. He knew that soon something would occur that could change the entire town. The night promised to be long, and its chilling embrace drew him ever deeper.
The first strange event occurred near the corner of the abandoned alley. A shadow moved just beyond the reach of the streetlight. He froze, heart hammering. The faint sound of a door creaking somewhere far off made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Something was definitely watching, though he could see no one. A soft whisper of wind carried a sound like a distant cough. The protagonist's eyes scanned every corner. The town, usually quiet at night, seemed to hold its breath. Every step he took echoed unnaturally loud against the stone walls. His mind raced with possibilities, none of them reassuring. He paused near an old lamppost, feeling the pressure of silence pressing around him. Every little noise, a rustle of leaves, a distant clatter, seemed magnified, like the night itself was conspiring against him. The shadows shifted unnaturally, and his instincts screamed that danger was near. Suddenly, a metallic sound broke the silence, sharp and startling. He spun toward it, heart pounding. Nothing. Just a stray can rolling across the cobblestones. Still, the unease refused to lift. The town had become an entity, alive and waiting. A sudden gust of wind blew past, carrying the scent of damp earth and something acrid. His eyes caught a fleeting movement at the edge of his vision. A figure, too fast, too shadowed, gone before he could focus. Panic rose. Yet, he forced himself to stay calm, pressing forward. With every step, the tension grew. The silence itself seemed oppressive, thickening the air. Each sound he made, breathing, footfalls, Even the rustle of his coat felt amplified, like he was the only living thing in the entire town. Something was closing in, something unseen, relentless. He reached the corner where the street forked. A strange sense of being observed settled over him, like a blanket of cold. The shadows pooled deeper, swallowing the light. He sensed that this was no ordinary night. The town had become a trap, and he was at its center.
The protagonist paused to catch his breath. The streets, though eerie, were familiar in structure. Narrow alleys led to small squares, and the old buildings, with their weathered brick and fading paint, told stories of generations long gone. He reflected on the history of the town, trying to ground himself amidst the tension. He remembered tales from the elders, stories of unexplained events, shadows seen in corners, strange sounds in the dead of night. Though dismissed by many as old wives' tales, tonight those stories seemed closer to reality. The night air was thick with the weight of expectation. Stopping by the fountain, he observed the ripples in the water. Each movement seemed deliberate, almost communicating something. His mind wandered through past experiences, trying to understand patterns and seek explanations. The calmness of reflection countered the rising tension, offering a brief respite. He considered the town's layout, imagining potential paths, hidden corners, and unseen observers. It was like a puzzle, every street and alley a piece. The sense of awareness grew, but he stayed deliberate, analyzing rather than reacting. Each thought slowed his racing heart and sharpened his focus. The sound of distant footsteps reminded him that he was not alone, even in the calm moments. The night's atmosphere had not lifted. It had only changed tone. He listened carefully, noting rhythm.
Suddenly, a distant scream pierced the night. The protagonist froze, every nerve on edge. The sound was brief but piercing, echoing off the old brick walls. He strained to locate its source, heart racing as shadows danced at the edge of his vision. A cold shiver ran down his spine as he stepped cautiously toward the alley from which the screams seemed to originate. Each step was careful, deliberate, yet the sense of being watched intensified. The fog thickened, swallowing the dim light around him. A sudden movement, a figure darting across a narrow street, made him jerk back instinctively. It vanished before he could focus. The sound of hurried footsteps faded into silence, leaving only the oppressive stillness of the night. He tried to steady his breathing, but every creak of a loose shutter or rustle of leaves tightened the knot of fear in his chest. The town, so familiar by day, had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and suspense. His pulse quickened. He felt the presence of something that was neither human nor known, yet undeniably real. The shadows seemed to inch closer, wrapping the streets in darkness. He stumbled upon a broken gate, its hinges groaning as if protesting his presence. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but curiosity and fear merged, driving him forward. The air felt heavier, charged with a tension that tightened around his chest. The protagonist stopped for a moment, scanning the fog-choked streets. Every sound, every flicker of light became amplified. He could no longer distinguish between reality and imagination. The town had become a stage for fear, and he was its lone audience. A strange light flickered in the distance, far down a narrow alley. It pulsed briefly, like a heartbeat, then vanished. The protagonist felt a chill run down his spine. Something was not right. The night had more secrets than he imagined. He cautiously approached the alley, every step measured. The fog wrapped around him, muffling sound, and each echo of his footsteps seemed to belong to someone or something else. He wondered if he was being led or lured into danger. A sudden clatter rang out behind him. He spun around, but saw only the dim outlines of buildings and the occasional flicker of light. Every nerve screamed alert. The town's familiar streets had transformed into a maze of shadows. His eyes caught movement in a window high above the street. A shadow seemed to shift and then vanish. Was it a trick of the fog or something watching him? Fear gripped him, tightening around his chest with every shallow breath. He forced himself to move forward, steps deliberate. Each flicker of movement, leaves, shadows, reflections, felt like a signal, a warning, or a message. The night's suspense pressed in, relentless and unyielding. A low hum resonated from the distance, almost imperceptible, yet unnerving. He strained to hear it, heart hammering. The rhythm was irregular, like the breathing of something alive, just out of sight. The fog swirled around him, thick and suffocating. Shapes seemed to form and dissolve, leaving him questioning reality. Every corner held the potential for danger. Every silent alley, a trap waiting to spring. He stopped at the end of the alley, his chest tight with anticipation. The strange light reappeared, pulsing slowly. Something awaited him there, hidden, yet unmistakable. The suspense was unbearable, yet he knew he had to face it. The figure emerged from the shadows, tall and silent, its presence suffocating. The protagonist's heart raced, pounding in his ears. Every instinct screamed to run, but his legs refused to obey. The night seemed to close in around him. A sudden movement, too fast to track, brushed past him. The air chilled, as if the darkness itself had taken form. The town's familiar streets felt alien, dangerous, alive. Fear surged, consuming all rational thought. He stumbled back, eyes wide, seeing glimpses of shapes shifting at the edge of vision. Shadows loomed taller than they should. Whispers drifted from nowhere, and the fog wrapped him in a suffocating embrace. Every step forward felt like a struggle. The unseen presence seemed to anticipate his every move, closing the distance even as he tried to flee. The night was no longer a place, but a living predator, stalking him relentlessly. A high-pitched shriek pierced the silence, echoing through the narrow alleys. His vision blurred and his chest heaved. The darkness pulsed, reacting to his fear. Each heartbeat was deafening, every breath shallow. He turned a corner and froze. The figure stood still, yet it radiated an unnatural tension. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The fog thickened, and the world around him seemed suspended, waiting for the inevitable. A chilling whisper slithered through the air, brushing against his mind. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. The town's silence had transformed into a tangible force, pressing him to the edge of panic. Time slowed. Every detail, the creak of the pavement, the flicker of light, the hiss of wind, became magnified. The climax of fear consumed him, and he realized the night would leave an indelible mark on his soul.
The figure vanished as suddenly as it appeared, leaving only the fog and the echo of distant sounds. The protagonist's heartbeat slowly returned to normal, though a lingering chill remained. He breathed deeply, absorbing the calm that had returned to the streets. He walked slowly, observing the familiar alleys and buildings. Everything looked the same, yet nothing felt as it had before. The night had changed, leaving an imprint of tension and unease in his mind. Reflecting, the protagonist's steps grew lighter. Though the night had been long and harrowing, there was comfort in the return of daylight, a promise of safety. He paused at the fountain, now calm and still, reflecting the first rays of morning. Memories of the night's events lingered, yet he felt stronger for having faced them. The town had tested him, and he had endured. Looking around, he noticed details he had missed before. Flowers on windowsills, the soft chirping of morning birds, the gentle sway of trees in the breeze. The world seemed familiar, yet newly alive, as if welcoming him back from the shadows. Deliberate, mindful, the night had left its mark, but with daylight, clarity returned. Fear had taught him awareness, and tension had sharpened his perception. He reached the edge of the town and looked back one last time. The streets, silent and still, held stories that few would ever know. The night was over, but its memory would linger, a reminder that even in calm, the unseen can shape our lives.